This is Ray Negron from Reach Out with Ray and Steve. And this is our special guest, Avani. And Avani is learning about H21 hand sanitizers. This is the sanitizer Gio Urshela and Gleyber Torres sent to Venezuela, Colombia, and a little country called the Bronx. But anyway, let's try this. Okay? Okay, now spray it all over. Smell it?
It smells good.
Wow! That's what I'm talking about. Tell everybody.
It smells good.
H21 hand sanitizer on Reach Out with Ray and Steve, right?
Yes.
Monday on Reach Out. Tom Dreesen, he was with Mr. Sinatra. He was with Frank Sinatra for many years. He's got some terrific stories. I can't wait. And then we have the great Tommy John. He should be in the Hall of Fame. He and his people created the Tommy John surgery, and he won over 250 games. Yankee, Dodger, world champion, whatever. I mean, Tommy John should be in the Hall of Fame. And then Eli Rodriguez, who completed the mission in Nicaragua for Roberto Clementi, and they're going to be doing a movie on that adventure. It's going to be incredible. Monday on Reach Out, 7 p.m., 8:30 on Bronx Net.
Reach out, oh, with Ray and Steve. Reach out, with Ray and Steve. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the car. For the home team, if they're not winning, it's a shame. Play ball.
Hello, everybody, and a very pleasant good evening to you wherever you may be. What a beautiful day. What a beautiful Monday it is. And what a great show we have. Welcome, 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 welcome to Reach Out with Ray and Steve. Now, we have a super cool show tonight for you, so I'm not going to waste any time. Let's bring on our hosts, Ray and Steve. Come on in, guys.
Thank you, Robby.
Hey.
Robert, what a week, what a week, what a week. Number one, well, before things, I'm going to have Steve start off on a serious note.
Yeah, we've had too many mass killings around this country, and I don't mean to get political, but we really have to do something about this. And these are the victims of Indianapolis. I just want to relay their names so that we could have a moment of prayer and thought and reflection. Jaswinder Singh, Matthew Alexander, Jasvanda Kaur, Samari Blackwell, Carly Smith, Amajat Joel, John Wiesert, and Amajat Sikon. Two women are 19 years old. One just started to work, and it's a tragedy when this happens. We have to change these gun laws. Ray, your son's a police officer, so things have to change. It's a sad epidemic that we need to get a handle of.
Well, you know, it's not my son, my sons. I have two sons that are major police officers here in New York. And one was involved with another major gun situation last night. And what was funny is that when he came home after work,
his kiss wasn't the normal kiss. He usually, when I tell my kids, no matter, I don't care if they're 100 years old, they're still gonna kiss daddy. I'm still their daddy. You understand? I don't care if they carry 6 guns. I'm their daddy. And so when he got home, usually his kiss is like, like barely grazes my face. And last night his kiss was more into it, And so I said to myself, I wonder what's that all about?
Right.
And he didn't say anything else. And then today, my older son, he's the union delegate for all the police out here, and he says, "You heard about Ricky, right?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "Ricky's fine. I saw him last night." And then he says he was involved in another gun incident. And it was like, it just took me, you were sitting right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's shocking. These situations are developing more frequently, and our officers around this country have to make quick decisions on how to handle this crisis situation. So our men and women in blue, we give it up to you. God bless you and all the families and friends of these victims in Indianapolis and all over the country.
Listen, all I know is all these guys that are saying that you have to do whatever with the police, you guys who are saying this, the first time that somebody breaks into your house and they're beating up on somebody in your family, you're going to dial 911. You're not going to dial your Uncle Fester. You're going to dial 911. And I would recommend you dial 911 too, so that we can handle this situation. Okay. So let's be real.
Right.
Let's be real. I'm into the whole scenarios of things that are happening in this world. Yeah, I'm with you. I march with you. However, let's not forget 911. Okay, and who's going to answer that call?
That's right. And I think next week we're going to have your son on, John Eric, on and talk about all the day in and day out situations that he develops in his precinct in Suffolk County, Long Island has. But it's just a representation of what's going on in this country. But our condolences, our thoughts and prayers go out to all these families and friends. And the gun violence has to stop, because this young person had a gun and he was able to get that gun. So we have to toughen up those laws, and because mental health has to be tightened up, the people need counseling. The gun laws have to be more restrictive.
Steve, listen. I love you. And I love the aspect that you're a psychologist and you're with me and you keep my crazy ass out of trouble. But let's keep out of the politics.
Okay.
Let's keep out of the politics. Like Elvis Presley once said, we're just entertainers, man.
Right.
You understand? We're just here to entertain the people, and that's all.
That's right.
Okay?
Well, God bless them. And we have a community segment that we're going to do a little switcheroonie, and we have Carmine on site here. Let's check out Carmine with his community segment on Reach.
Welcome to this week's segment of Community. I'm Carmine Alvezio, and here we're going to highlight the Valley Stream Presbyterian Church. So we've been filming there for quite a while now, and we're about to start shooting our Cablevision show there too, and making sure that we get the church's information out to everybody. So we're here with Chris. Chris is in charge of helping rigging up everything for the church.
Yes.
So Chris, why don't you inform people about what you do for the church?
Well, thank you very much for having me on today. I'm just a tech guy, honestly. All I do is just take care of the cameras, make sure everything runs nice and smooth, and make sure no one goes crazy when everything goes south. But honestly, it's an honor to do it, because frankly, I was doing nothing in the past, so I was like, I might as well do something for fun and help people out as well at it, right?
Hey, Chris, I want to condemn you for all your work. Chris is running all over the church. Some little sound issues happening here. He runs over, he fixes it, and he's really on the go and adaptive. So thank you for every single thing that you do. Now, for the church, there has to be some passion behind it. What drives you to go work as a technician and help film all these shows for everybody to get them out to people?
Honestly, that's a very hard question, but that's the answer I can give, is the fact that I just do this for fun. Like, I really enjoy doing it. It's like, I might as well learn while I'm at it. But honestly, it's like, as I said before, it was an honor. I would do it any day again, honestly.
Hey, good answer, Chris. And thank you for joining us on this week's special of Community, speaking about Valley Stream Presbyterian Church. Now we're going to transition to our final part of the segment. So Ray is now back in New York. So Ray, speak to us a little bit. You were there for the Yankees, but you had an encounter with this team called the Devils.
No, well, bottom line is I just got back from Florida, following the team around for a little bit, and I got to do some of my community scenarios that I do for the Yankees, and I got to spend some time at St. Petersburg High School with these kids because they play at a very historic field. It's called Untitled Field, which is the spring training side of the New York Yankees from 1925 until 1961. And that's the field where Roberto Clementi, I mean, you name it, Billy Martin, they all played on this field, Elton Howard. And so, when these kids play on that field, I like them to know the magnitude of what that field was all about and who played there and why. When you play on that field, you play like those guys with those pinstripes that back in those days, the guys that knew how to play baseball. Okay, so in essence, it was a great time to be able to educate those kids about those guys and what they did. It's just like today. We have another historic baseball player on our show. Wonderful pitcher who belongs in the Hall of Fame. I've been saying that for weeks now. Okay, and I'm so happy that Robbie Robinson has gotten Tommy John, the great Tommy John, as a guest with us today. Tommy John, I was a bat boy when Tommy played for the Yankees, and I was a bat boy when the Yankees beat the Dodgers, and Tommy was on the other side. There we go. No knock, Tommy. I got respect for you. But Tommy John, truly, I mean, they named the Tommy John. He has Tommy John, so his name comes up every day. I mean, I hope that he's getting like at least $1 for every time they mention his name. Yes. Oh, he's going to have Tommy John surgery today. You know what I'm saying?
And 1974 changed the world because so many pitchers and athletes, not just pitchers, athletes in all sports have gotten Tommy John. That's Dr. Frank Jobe. And we're going to hear more from Tommy John when he comes on the show.
Right.
But we got
to get back to Carmine, though.
Yeah, okay.
All right,
Carmine, what do you have next?
Hey, so we're just closing off the segment. So here's a video from this past week what Ray was doing in Florida in the community. Let's check it out.
And number one, I came to town. I'm gonna get emotional. I came to town to be with the Yankees and to see those players over there. That's my job as a consultant. But the best time I've had is these 3 games. And to see him coach my New York guy, the New York way, the Billy Martin way. Remember what I said the other day about knowing who those spirits are here? You know what I'm saying? And when I got here on Monday, they said,
Okay.
Wow. Great bunch of young people there.
Yeah, but my technical stuff wasn't working that good, so I'm not too happy about that.
Well, I mean, obviously, you made an impact on those young men. That's what we all need to do and continue to do it in New York and Florida, no matter where we are. But great time, though, in Tampa.
Very good time. I had a blast, and to be with those kids and the fact that they knew. Hey, today you can ask major league players, do they know who Lou Gehrig was? Some guys don't even know, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, I know it's because they come from different countries and all that stuff, but I don't care. They should know Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Joe DiMaggio. I'm sorry. They're supposed to know. They're supposed to know who Tommy John is.
Right.
Not that Tommy John is a shoulder injury, but the Tommy John won over 270 some odd games in the major leagues. Okay,
yes.
Come on.
But they also should know who Roberto Clementi was. Too.
The guy that's coming from those countries, I mean, I figured they better know who Clementi was.
We have a couple of gentlemen that have dedicated their life into maintaining the legacy.
No. Let's get that straight. We have one gentleman that has dedicated his life And we're talking about Eli Rodriguez, and then he's the gentleman that's with him has written the story
Yes.
about what Eli has been going through. Okay, and because you got to be very careful how you say that, because Eli has given himself. He has. I mean, he spent money out of his pocket. He's taken money from his family to be able to deliver goods to Nicaragua. You know what I'm saying? He took from here to give to there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I will never forget that about him.
Well, let's bring on Eli and to thank him directly for the great work that you've done. Welcome to Reach Out with Ray and Steve. That's our musical director, Robby Robinson.
Hi, Eli.
Hi, how are you? Hi,
Good.
Steve, Ray.
Oh, you okay over there?
He's in the Bronx. Those bullets?
Yeah.
Yes, bullets coming from the back.
You better have your vest on.
Everything's good, thank you.
Eli, tell us a little bit about what you do. I mean, you're an attorney, but you're more than that. You've dedicated, like Ray says, your life to maintain the legacy of Mr. Clementi, who was a legend around the world. But you, my friend, continue to pass that baton and share that with so many people.
Yes, and to be completely honest, it may sound a little corny, but what I did was sparked by a dream. It was inspired by a dream that I had with a bunch of kids, and what they had was just one T-shirt. It was a support team, one T-shirt, and the T-shirt was number 21, Roberto Clementi. And every year the kids chose an MVP, and that MVP pretended to be Clementi for the following year. Based on that, I organized a project called Project Club Clementi. And I started doing research on Roberto Clementi. I found out the very first time he came to bat, he got a hit. And the very last time he came to bat in the regular season, he got a hit. And he ended his career with exactly 3,000 hits. Unfortunately, Clementi is known as a great humanitarian, and we lost Clementi on December 31st, 1972, when he responded to the earthquake the victim's need in Nicaragua. That's an earthquake that killed over 10,000 people and left over hundreds of thousands homeless or injured. Well, Clementi lost his life. The following year, Major League Baseball waived the mandatory 5-year waiting period, and they inducted him into the Hall of Fame, making him only the second person in baseball to have the waiver, mandatory waiver. He was inducted. The first one being Lou Gehrig, and they wanted Lou Gehrig to be alive for his own induction. And as we know, he died of what we know as Lou Gehrig disease. So Clementi gave his life to help Nicaragua, and I see Clementi as the pulse of Major League Baseball, what every ball player ought to be like when they're not wearing a uniform. Unfortunately, 33 years after his death, his mission to Nicaragua was not completed, and that's where I came in. I created Project Club Clementi with the goal of completing Clementi's last humanitarian effort, and it wasn't easy. There was a lot of blood, a lot of sweat, a lot of tears, but we persevered. And on December 31st, 1972, I chartered an aircraft, and we loaded up with the amount of Bay Clementi was taken when his plane went down, and we left from Puerto Rico to Nicaragua, and we landed in Nicaragua before midnight on December 31st, 2005, completing Clementi's last humanitarian effort. So therefore, we completed his last promise.
Okay, we don't have the time to really talk about everything that you went through, but you went through a lot. You almost lost your life. Yeah. And because of all of these craziness that happened in your journey, they're going to be making a movie on it. And we have the gentleman that wrote the script to the story of Clementi and you and what happened. And Matt, how do you pronounce your last name?
Harms.
Why don't you tell about the script? Why don't you tell viewers about the script that you are working on?
So I got to tell you guys, every time you have us on the show or Ellie has me involved in one of these, I get chills and goosebumps, and the dates just seem to constantly coincide. He brought this idea to me randomly. I think it was, Ellie, 5 years ago at a Bronx YMCA meeting. And we started it. We made it 3 pages in. 3 years went by. We were still 3 pages in. Beginning of the pandemic, we got together and something just clicked where our visions, you guys give me the credit for writing the script, but no, we wrote the script. This was Ellie's dream, and we turned the script into a combination of his dream meets his real world mission. So these children overlapping with what he went through. And it goes back and forth. We finished the rough draft on December 31st, 2020. And we just finished the final version on April 17th, which is, as Ellie, which milestone was that, Ellie? I'm going to leave that one back to you.
That marked Clemente's 66th anniversary of his major league debut on April 17th, 1955.
Wow. Wow.
So what we started 5 years ago and could get no traction on, just miraculously, or as Ellie would say, mystically and magically, has come to fruition and completed, like, with the stars in alignment.
And also, this is 2021, and Clemente's number was 21.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's a beautiful thing. And, you know, again, I'm very unorthodox in how I do these things with the show. So everything, like you said, the stars always align. What I would like my producer, engineer to do here, I would like to introduce you guys to Tommy John, because Tommy played against Clemente.
Oh my
You know what
God.
I'm saying? Can we do that, Peter?
He's on there.
Tommy,
There you go. There's
Tommy John. What's happening, Tommy?
We don't hear him, do we?
he's probably muted.
Now we hear you.
No. All right, why are we fixing?
So let me just tell you, Ray and Steve, that the screenplay was registered on April 17th, and it's entitled "A Light in the Shadow, in Darkness There's Hope."
Oh, okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay. And from this point on, while Tommy adjusts his audio,
I think that if Tommy takes his headphones off, he can hear, probably it'll go through the, you know what I'm saying? That's happened before with some of our guests.
Well, but he won't be able to hear the
yeah, they
microphone.
won't be able to hear.
So
Let's
the microphone is the issue.
try it
Okay,
back
he
on.
tried.
Tommy, can you hear us?
Try it now, Peter.
Tommy looks like he can still pitch.
Yes, yes. He's having trouble with the audio. But from this point on, gentlemen, what's the next process for this script to get onto the screen? What's going on next?
Well, Steve and Ray, one of the benefits of being on your program is we want to shop the script around with the screenplay. We want people to know that this is a real Bronx tale.
Right.
The organization that completed this mission is from the Bronx. Out of all the institutions, people, and in the world, it was a Bronx organization that made this happen. So now we just got to turn the screenplay into a movie, and we need help with that.
All right. Well, how can people get a hold of you or contact you if they want further information or support your efforts to carry on that legacy of Clemente?
You can email me. It's E Rodriguez, ESQ at AOL.com. And Matthew, you want to give your email?
Absolutely. It's Matt, M-A-T-T, at penforhirenyc.com.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you so very much. I don't know if Tommy can hear.
Hold on. Let's see. Can Tommy hear us?
Can you hear us, Tommy? That doesn't look like he can hear us.
No,
And we can't hear him.
Right. So we will, if he comes on, we will try to get you guys back on. But thank you so very much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Try to hang on back screen, Eli. Backstage.
As we're getting this fixed, we alluded to Tommy John surgery, which is world renowned. And then, Robby, you bring up the fact that his name is mentioned more than Babe Ruth's name.
Absolutely. Tommy, can you hear us? I guess not. Maybe we should bring him on in a minute. Should we go to the other Tom while they get the audio fixed?
Yeah.
Let's put on that. Let's segue this a little bit. Tom
This is
Dreesen.
Tommy show.
Hold on 1 second. Before we do that, we have to get Brian Hoke. Just came in for a quick report, and then that way we can go with Tommy. with Tom Dreesen all the way through. And with us is
Hey, Brian.
Brian Hoke. Brian, can we hear you?
No.
I can't hear.
What's going on today? This is the weirdest day.
Wow.
Hey, I can give you the baseball report if that's what you needed.
Well, let's put the standings out there. I hate to do this. Let's
Yeah,
put the
let's
standings
do
out.
it, baby.
Look at that. Say what? The Yankees
Whoa,
are 5-10.
baby.
The Metsies are 7-4, and the Dodgers are 13-3. Although they lost last night, I watched that game, but they're 13-3. You guys are doing well.
It's pretty good. You know what? All the experts are picking the Dodgers and the Yankees to win to go to the World Series together, and the Dodgers are holding their end up. What's going on there, Mr. Negron?
Listen, that's why we have Brian Hoke on. The only guy that can give us that information is Brian Hoke, because he's with the ball club every single day. So,
And then to add injury to insult, the Red Sox are in first place over there.
well, I don't know how to respond to that. Okay, I don't know how to respond to that. But anyway, let's get on with Mr. Tom Dreesen, because I want to hear Mr. Dreesen's story. He's been great.
Well, let me
years.
introduce him then. Let me introduce this next gentleman. Hold on one second, Tommy. Okay. How many people do you guys know that have been on television over 500 times? How many people do you know that have been on the Johnny Carson Tonight Show 61 times? How many people do you know that have made over 50 appearances on David Letterman and even hosted David Letterman in his absence? This next gentleman has appeared in all the major showrooms in Las Vegas with Sammy Davis, Liza Minnelli, Smokey Robinson, and for 14 years, he toured as the opening act for this singer from New Jersey. Let me think about his name. Oh, yeah, Frank Sinatra. So please welcome Mr., and I add a big underline under Mr., Tom Dreesen.
But this is a good story for you. When Frank Sinatra was
From New York, it's The Late Show with David Letterman. His guest host tonight is Tom Dreesen. Tom Dreesen's guests tonight, Kiefer Sutherland, Frank Gorshin, comedian Suzanne Westenhopper, and the music, plus Paul Schaefer and the CBS Orchestra. And now, Tom Dreesen.
All right, I want you to applaud now. How many of you still were hoping Dave was coming through that curtain? There's a lady.
Bravo!
Bravo.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes. And you got
Oh
the
my
skyline in the background, the Cub jacket. Welcome, sir.
I'm here in Los Angeles, but that's a Chicago background back there.
There we go.
I was really enjoying some of the stories, especially about Roberto Clementi, because I saw him play at Wrigley Field, when I was a little boy growing up in Chicago. And he was an outstanding ball player, just an outstanding. I saw him throw a guy out at a guy tagging at third. He threw him out from deep right field and like a one hop to the plate and nailed him. It was exciting to watch him play. And Ray, I have something in common with you, Ray. I was a bad boy, but I was a bad boy as a grown man. In my 40s, I was appearing in Chicago, and Jim Fry was the manager at that time. And every year he let me be bat boy for the Cubs for 4 or 5 days. I was bat boy at Dodger Stadium, but I was bat boy every year. And in those days, he only played day games. So all the players would come to my show that night. I'd be appearing in a club in Chicago, and all the players and their wives would come to the show. And I was like it's hard to describe what a thrill that was for me, because as a little boy, I had 8 brothers and sisters. We lived in a shack on the south side of Chicago. I grew up in White Sox territory. I was a Cub fan. By the time I was 8 years old, I could take a punch, because they were all.
I bet, yeah.
But and I used to, shine shoes in all the taverns to help feed my brothers and sisters. And my mom, whenever I'd bring the money home, she'd take a nickel and put it up in a little cup in the cupboard. And when that cup got filled, she'd give that to me. I could go take the IC downtown Chicago and the elevated over to Wrigley Field and watch the Cubs. And Jim Fry asked me how I became a fan, and I told him that story. I said, and I used to sit in the bleachers and look at that little bat boy and say, wow, wouldn't that be great if you could be a bat boy? And I said, but my brother told me, now only the rich kids from the north side to be bat boys. Us poor kids don't. And Jim Fry said, really? He said, well, maybe we'll let your childhood dream come true. And so they let me be bat boy. And not only that, Ray, they let me hit batting. I could hit BP, at batting practice, the outfield, and catch fly balls. It's hard to describe. And I was telling Robby the other day that Rick Sutcliffe at that time was the captain of that team, but he was always busting my chops and always setting me up for things. He would take a styrofoam cup and he'd fill it up with Kool-Aid.
Sounds like Tommy John.
Yeah. He would punch a hole in the side of the styrofoam cup, and he had it full of red Kool-Aid. But he'd go tell the WGN camera, focus on Dreesen. He said, so the camera would be on this before the game, and Rick would be holding this drink, and he'd say, wait a minute. Oh, I'll be right there. I said, Tommy, hold this cup. And I would grab the cup, and all the Kool-Aid would go all over my uniform, and that would be on the news. That would, he running out to get the bats. He would blow bubbles up in a bubble gum, and somehow he put a big bubble on top of my helmet, and I'd run out to get the bat, and all the people in the stands were laughing at me. And me, because I'm a comedian, I think they recognize me. So I'm waving at them. But on the evening news, I got this big bubble on top of my head. But it was those are great times.
Unbelievable. That's a
One
great story.
thing, unlike Ray, they let you sing the national, or they let you sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" at the game, right?
Yeah, after Harry Carey died, every year they'd have the celebrities sing, and so me and Joe Mantegna are tied. 17 years in a row, I've sung "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" at Wrigley in September every year. But I got to tell you, I've been a stand-up comedian 51 years, and this for a living. I make a living making people laugh. And opening for Sinatra wasn't easy because there's 20,000 people out there, and in Hawaii 40,000, and they all came to see Frank. They didn't come to see me, but so that was a challenge. But to sing at Wrigley Field, when you get up in that big booth, and I look out there, there's 40,000 people out there, and I'm not a singer, when I sang in the choir, but I can carry a tune. But this was intimidating, really intimidating the first time I had to do that, But again, when you're a kid from the south side of Chicago and grew up as poor as I did, and loving the Cubs, and then being able to be a part of that. I'll give you one description that I wrote in the foreword of a book, and Ray, and I think all you guys will appreciate this. I said, all of us in our lives wish sometimes that the world would just stand still. We're just moving too fast, and so much is happening. We just wish time would stand still. In Chicago, you're driving through a neighborhood and you come to a stop sign, and off to your right, there's a ballpark, and you walk in that ballpark in the neighborhood, and you walk in that ballpark, and you're going to sit in a seat that your great-great-grandfather sat in, that your great-grandfather sat in, that your grandfather sat in, father sat in, that you're sitting in, and your son and your son's son are going to sit in that same seat, and you're going to watch that same game that they watched. And for a moment, time stands still. Amen. In a ballpark. All of a sudden, we're kids again, back in that ballpark. I love it. That's what.
Well, Tom, you're lucky because you can do that at Wrigley Field. Unfortunately, I can't do that at Yankee Stadium because it's not Yankee Stadium anymore. And that makes me sad for me, but happy for you. You can still do that at Fenway Park, So, I mean.
Hey, don't forget, where, too.
Where, Robby? We forgot already.
Hey, Ray, I got to tell you, when I went to Yankee Stadium several times, Yogi Berra was a real good friend of mine. Billy Martin used to bring me to his charities all the time to do shows to raise money for his charities. And Mickey Mantle and I were real good buddies. Mickey and I played golf together and hung out together, and I thought the world of him. and I miss the guy all the time. He was a terrific guy, and a troubled guy in a lot of ways, but a terrific guy. But the time I told Robby this the other day, there's 3 moments in my life, in my 51 years in show business, that I'll never, ever forget. One, of course, is I had introduced Arnold Palmer at an event coming up the 18th fairway where all the pros, 20-something pros, from Lee Trevino to Jack Nicklaus to Tom Watson, all these pros, I introduced every one of them, and 15,000 people on the 18th green gave them a nice round of applause. When the last guy to come out of that tent that I introduced was Arnold Palmer, it was a moment I'll never forget. The entire stadium rose. I mean, all the people there, all the pros rose, and they couldn't stop cheering for this man, Arnold Palmer, because they knew that he changed the game of golf, by his being there. And then the next time, are we still on, by the way, guys?
Yes,
Yep.
sir.
Yep, sounding good.
Okay, I'm sorry. The next time was, of course, being with Frank Sinatra anywhere in the world. When he walked out on stage, before he sang a note, the place went wild. But to go back to New Jersey, Garden State Arts Center with Frank, and to watch how those people reacted when their homeboy, this kid from Hoboken, this Jersey boy, when he walked on that stage in New Jersey, I mean, it took like 10 minutes before he could sing a note because they could not stop cheering. But the third time was, I was at Yankee Stadium, and it was when they were retiring Billy's number. I was the master of ceremonies that night. But in the dugout are all these former Yankees that you all know, from Yogi Berra to Whitey Ford. But and the stadium was just this excited. But the last man to come out, and you couldn't see him yet. He was in the dugout, but the audience knew that Mickey Mantle was about to walk out on those steps and that whole stadium. I'm living in California. I think we're having an earthquake. That stadium began to tremble. It was shaking. I went, oh, wow, what the hell is happening? And Mickey came to the top, and that place went wild. And all I could think of was, this is a kid from Oklahoma, and these New Yorkers, these tough Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, Manhattan, these tough New Yorkers couldn't stop cheering for this country boy that they love so much. And later that night, I said to Mickey, Mickey, what does that do to you that these people love you so much? And he kind of shrugged it off. But that's a moment I'll never, ever, ever forget. And
Tom, I got to ask you. Tom, I have to ask you, how long did it take you before that thing inside stopped shaking every time you was with Mr. Sinatra?
Yeah, well, it was rarefied air. As a little boy, I shined shoes in taverns all over my neighborhood, and Frank Sinatra was on the jukebox. And I'm an 8-year-old boy shining shoes, and he's singing on the jukebox. And then flash forward, I'm flying in his jet all over the country, sitting next to him, and he's saying, "We're going to knock him dead tonight, Tommy." There were times I wanted to pinch myself. One of the reasons I stayed with Frank so long, how much in awe of him I was. I picked up on that when I first started touring with him. I had toured with Sammy Davis and Smokey Robinson, a lot of people, but when I first met Frank, I picked up on he didn't want another fan. He had millions of fans. He wanted a pal, a buddy. And so I how many times I wanted this, what a magnificent show you did tonight, or boy, when I saw you in From Here to Eternity, and those kind of things, how I wanted to tell him, or the songs that I loved. But I didn't do that. I didn't gush over him like I would in my heart would like to. Being around him was rarefied air. I'm in a show business where everybody is mostly full of it. All they do is give great meetings. They don't half the time they don't get anything accomplished. They talk about projects. Your friends that are doing the Roberto Clementi movie, God bless them, but they're going to have to pitch it 8,000 times to people that can't get it done, but just want to give you a good meeting. But Frank Sinatra, when you were around him and his friends, if they mentioned something they wanted to do, it got done. Now, wow, it got done. Frank, if an idea came up, he'd pick up that phone next to you doing it. To be around men of power like that could make things happen was really exciting for me. Really exciting.
Do we have Tommy, John? Do we have Tommy? Tommy, can you hear us?
We can't hear him.
He can hear us, but we can't hear him.
He's got to sign out and sign on.
Is there? He went off and he signed back in.
Okay,
3. He said 3. What does that mean?
3 times.
Well, 3 times he went on. So he has to unmute himself, maybe. take the headphones off, maybe?
No, or unmute himself. I think you're right. Look down on the bottom, Tommy, and unmute. Use your
Unplug them and then put them back on.
Just unplug.
Oh, just unplug them. Just unplug it.
Unplug the headphones.
Just unplug the headphones.
3 times he did it.
Can we use the phone?
Frustrating, isn't it? Yeah.
Use the phone.
Can we call?
I don't have his number. All right, so we're gonna
Robbie has it. Tell him.
I've got
Robbie.
the number.
So let's get as we're fixing this up here. Tom, last year on June 9th, during the pandemic, still standing my journey from streets and saloons to the stage in Sinatra. Talk about that.
There it is.
There we go.
Okay. The entendre that I'm still standing. I'm a stand-up comedian 51 years, but I've been knocked down a lot in my life, physically knocked down if you read the book.
So what we're thinking is your headphones might be muting your. Did you unmute your microphone?
Robby, you're on with me now.
All right, Tom, I'm sorry. I want you to share about our viewers about your memoir, your book.
Yeah, still standing. It's basically it's this little boy going from bar to bar, shining shoes, and that's the beginning. And on the jukebox and all the saloons that he's in is Sinatra singing. And flash forward, that's Sinatra singing on the south side of Chicago. Flash forward years later in Beverly Hills, that little boy is carrying Frank Sinatra's coffin out of a church in Beverly Hills, California. And I spoke at the funeral, and I was a pallbearer. So the book starts with the beginning, the childhood, and then it goes on to how I got in show, how the struggles. Tim Reed and I were America's first black and white comedy team. History shows we were the last. We toured the nation for almost 6 years as the first black and white comedy team when there were no comedy clubs in America. So we worked all black clubs in the North and the South, but they affectionately called the Chitlin Circuit, black-owned, black-operated nightclubs. Too, we worked the Playboy Circuit. The team splits up, and I ended up going alone on the West Coast, sleeping in a car. My wife and kids were in Chicago. I was broke. My wife wanted me out of show business. I'm hitchhiking up and down Sunset Boulevard, begging to work for free at the Comedy Store, struggling for a long time. I slept in an old Nash Rambler. It wasn't my car. It was up on blocks, and the front seat came down. And I lived on $1 a day. I would go to Kentucky Colonel and get what they call corn and cluck for under $1. You know, that's how I survived. But all of that, I finally struggled. I finally got my way on the Tonight Show. In 1975, wherever you went in America, people say, "What do you do for a living?" You say, "I'm a stand-up comedian." The next question out of them was, "Oh yeah, have you ever been on Johnny Carson?"
Yeah.
And if you hadn't been on Johnny Carson in the eyes of America, you just weren't a comedian. You might want to be one, but you weren't one now. One appearance on that show, Freddie Prinze got a sitcom the next day. You know, I did I did one appearance on that show, and I was broke. And the following day, my whole life changed. A guy named Lee Curlin from New York, from CBS, was watching the show, and he signed me to a development deal with CBS. And the next thing you know, I'm touring with, you know, Sammy Davis Jr., Tony Orlando and Don, Mac Davis, James Darren, Frankie Avalon, all these folks, you know, Gladys Knight and the Pips, Natalie Cole. They all wanted me to open for them because I could work clean and I didn't offend their audiences, you know. And then, you know, I was doing Dinah Shore, Merv Griffin, Mike Douglas, Johnny Carson, Midnight Special, Rock Concert, Soul Train, American Bandstand, $1,000. I mean, they were all, that one show changed my life, you know, changed my life.
Amazing.
But you had to keep coming up with new material, though. You had to keep working, you know.
Right.
And then finally, the Frank Sinatra. And I'll close with this. In the 14 years that I toured with Frank Sinatra, I was offered more sitcoms than most comedians get offered in a lifetime. I was offered shows and opportunities. But at that time, I'm not Frank Sinatra and all over the world. I'm staying in his home 6 times a year. And I played golf on a celebrity players tour. It was basketball, baseball, football, hockey, tennis, and show business people that were 10 handicap or below. So it was Johnny Bench, Mike Schmidt, Mario Lemieux, John Elway, Dan Marino, Michael Jordan. 42 Hall of Famers we had on that tour. We played 12 cities a year. A former Dodger, Rick Rhoden, won over $2 million on our tour, you know.
Wow.
But
yeah,
if you would have told me when I was a little boy on my hands and knees, I love sports and I played a lot of sports, not at your big league level, but if you had told me when I was a little boy, one day you're going to fly all over the world in Frank Sinatra's private jet and grace the same stage with Frank Sinatra, and you're also going to get inside of an arena and you're going to compete with the greatest athletes who lived in your lifetime, I would have said, that can't happen. But it was happening. And I wasn't going to go do a sitcom. Christopher Morley, the author, once said, success is living the life you want. I was living the life I wasn't going to change that for the world.
Only in America, Tom.
Wow.
Amen to that. Yes.
Speaking of which, do we have Brian Hoke on now? Brian.
Can you hear me?
Wow.
Hey,
Yeah, we hear you.
I'm
Okay,
back.
perfect.
But you're
all
sticky a
right.
little bit.
What's going on?
Okay, so Brian, do me a favor while we have you. Tell us what's wrong with the Yankees.
And we only
A
have
little
a few
bit of
minutes.
everything, to be honest with you. It'd be easier if I just tell you what's not wrong with them. Garrett Cole has been everything you would have anticipated. He's been fantastic. Other than that, you look at their offense, it's just been horrific. And they managed 11 hits in a 3-game series against Tampa Bay. That's clearly not going to get it done. And, they got booed off the field at the end of that series, and for good reason. So, look, they're 5-10, right? Their worst start since 1997, but that 97 team did come back at the playoffs. So you don't want to get off to this kind of start. It's still early enough. People hate hearing that, but it is still early enough. They can dig out of it.
Brian, our board over here is lit up with the Yankee fans saying, "Where is Buck Showalter?" Is that a reality or is that fictional?
It's fictional. I think Aaron Boone, I actually asked Cashman that question today. We got Brian Cashman on a Zoom, and I asked him, what gives you confidence that Aaron Boone and his coaching staff are the right people to lead you out of this? And he said he has faith. And, I think that they're very committed. They think things through. This is not the George Steinbrenner Yankees, for better or for worse. They're not going to just go fire the hitting coach or fire the pitching coach or fire the manager. They have this team going in. I think if you go back to 98, when Brian Cashman took over as GM, I don't think he's ever fired a coach or manager in season. Wow. So that tells me they are going forward with a team that they brought to spring training. They believe in these players that they can turn it around, and we'll see. But on paper, we all looked at this team and said, this team should be AL pennant winners. They should go to the World Series. Now they got to prove it on the field, because they have certainly not looked that way to me.
Okay, so you say that Brian's never fired anybody, etc., but he's never gone through a situation. Suppose this thing is continuing for the next 2 months. What happens then?
If it continues for 2 months, then they've got significant problems, and then maybe that has to change. But it's been 2 weeks. I think that the track record here, Aaron Boone, his winning percentage is over 600, I believe. He's gone to the playoffs every year as manager. So I think you give him a pass here. It's 15 games. If the next 15 are as bad as these 15, then that's going to be a real problem, because it's been tough to watch. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That first game, the Friday game, where fans were throwing stuff on the field, the Yankee Stadium, wow. I couldn't blame them, because you go through all that hassle, and you're paying parking, and you got to get a COVID test to get in the building, and then the team didn't show up. That was tough to watch. I'd be angry too. I'm not condoning throwing stuff on the field, but I certainly get why they got booed.
Well, 11 hits in 3 games. That's the bottom line. I mean, you can't score anything or win any games like that kind of offense. So hopefully that streak will stop against the Braves tomorrow night.
Well, Steve, what I'm saying here, listen, I like to think I'm the boss of this show, and I'm going to put it to you like this: if I continue to get insulted by what's happening with the Yankees, and I have to look at Robbie Robinson's face wearing that Dodger hat and uniform with that smirk of his, like if Frankie Valli's sitting over here, I'm telling you, he's gone, and I'm going to find Doc Severinsen or somebody.
Yeah, all right, no problem. Hey, by the way, we have somebody who's been on the Yankees and the Dodgers. Is he available now?
Well, let's try to get Tommy John on.
How's it going so far?
Not working.
Okay, we're having all kinds of technical problems though. So hey,
we've had a tough we've had as tough a weekend as the Yankees have had.
That's right. That's right.
Well, it might be contagious, guys. You might need to take a show off or something and just kind of reset, bust that slump.
That's
I
right.
think it was when Ray went down to Tampa to hang with his boys down there, the Yankees.
We'll see what happens. But Brian, thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian.
And thank you for checking in on us. We
got it,
appreciate
guys.
you as
Anytime.
always.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Take care.
Well, some outstanding guests, and Robby. You know, Tom Dreesen is an amazing person who's been in entertainment for over 50 years. He's stand-up, but he's been in Carson with Sinatra, David Letterman filling in. I mean, a great, great guy.
He's a total class act. You know, he's one of those people in our business that when his name comes up, not only is he super talented, but he is just a genuine gentleman and a class act. And he's one of the best. And he's got, talk about stories. His book has got to be fabulous.
Well, what I feel bad about is that I know that he loved being with Mr. Sinatra, but at the same time, when you're with someone of that magnitude, okay, and I know that feeling, then you are forever taking that back seat, even though you may be as great as some of the people that are already out there. You know what I'm saying?
But
right.
You know,
am I right, Tom? Can we get Tom on?
Yeah.
Tom,
Ray,
you know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying. Let me tell you. Frank and I were landing in this private jet one night in Palm Springs, and then the jet was coming back here to LA where I live. And Frank said, "Are you spending the weekend with me, Tommy, at his compound?" I said, "No, I've got to go back." It was a Thursday night. I said, "I got to go back tomorrow, and I'm doing the Tonight Show." It's my 50th appearance on the Tonight Show at that time. He said, "I'll call Fred DeCordova. I'll get you out of it." I said, "Oh, no, I don't want to get out of it. It's my 50th." He said, so anyhow, so I said, he said, "Wow, that's a lot of times. Are you holding the record for the most appearances on the Tonight Show for comedians?" I said, "No, there's a few other like Rodney Dangerfield and David Brenner who've done more than me. But I said, Frank, it doesn't matter what I do. The rest of my life, it doesn't matter. I could find a cure to cancer. My obituary is going to say the comedian who toured with Frank Sinatra."
Absolutely.
He said, you know what? He said, maybe my obituary will say the singer who toured with Tom Dreesen, and we both started laughing like two high school.
Oh, that's so cool.
We're almost out of time. But Robby, I'm sorry, Robby, we have somebody that's struggling in the hospital and needs our thoughts and prayers. Can you share with us?
Oh yeah. Well, Tom, stay on for this because I think you know him. You know, one of the the guy who took Nick Massey's place as the bass player and bass singer in the Four Seasons is Joe Long. Did you know him, Tom?
No, I don't think I did.
Okay, well, Joe Long was the bass player for so many of the hit records and that's Joe on our left as we look at the picture.
Right.
And Joe Long has been struggling for the last few weeks in the hospital with COVID. And actually, guys, we've been asking for prayers, and all the fan base has been asking for prayers for Joe Long, the bass player from the Four Seasons. As a matter of fact, Frankie called him yesterday and wished him best. But I just got a text while we were on the show saying from his buddy Vinny, said an update that he's turning the corner. It looks like he's going to go off of the IV right now, and he's start taking pills. He's still in the hospital, but I want to ask all the fans to pray for Joe Long.
Hey, by the way, I was in the hospital with COVID, and Frankie Valli called me. At Cedar Sinai. Yeah, in August, late August, I got the COVID, and I couldn't shake it. And after 14 days, it went into viral pneumonia. They put me in Cedar Sinai in quarantine. But I could take a phone call, and Frankie Valli, of course, I've known Frankie for 45 years. Anyhow, so he called me.
Tom, is he today's Sinatra?
No, because they're totally different voices. Totally different voices. Frankie's got a distinct style. That a voice that you rarely heard that kind of coming out of him. But Sinatra. There'll never be another Frank Sinatra. No one interpreted lyrics like Frank. And it's this way, Ray, and Robby, and I'm sorry, I'm not directing the conversation. When you gave Frank Sinatra, people forget what a brilliant actor Frank Sinatra was.
Right.
if you gave Frank Sinatra a script, oh boy, did I go off?
No, you're
No,
good.
you're good.
You're good. We
I'm
can hear
being-
you.
Okay, yeah. Anyhow, when you gave Frank Sinatra a song, to him it was a script. You know, here's a man, Frank Sinatra, won the Academy Award in For Eternity. What about the man with the golden arm? What about the Manchurian Candidate?
Oh my
He should have
God,
won
unreal,
Yeah.
unreal.
over 60 films. I was sitting with him one night with Gregory Peck, Kirk Douglas, Clint Eastwood, Robert Wagner, Jack Lemmon, and they were talking film. And I was like this little boy. These were people I saw in the movies when I was growing up, you know, when I was a shoe shine boy. So they were talking film, and they were showing a great reverence to Frank. And I was curious. I said, Frank, did you study acting? Because in Hollywood, they always want to tell you who they studied with, you know,
Right.
Strasberg, Stella Adler, you know. So I said, Frank, did you study acting? And Gregory Peck grabbed my arm real hard. He said, acting lessons would have ruined him. He was a diamond in the rough you didn't fool
Wow.
with. You know,
Wow.
so when you gave Frank Sinatra a song, to him it was a script. What did the writer feel the night the writer took pen in hand? He would immerse himself in that lyric and become that lonely guy in the bar whose woman left him, and he's never going to find love again. And you felt that. You felt the joy of his songs, you know, Come Fly With Me. But he could go out in front of a 20,000-seat arena, people all around him, and he'd start to sing, and that guy way up in the seat, up in the top, felt like he was in a saloon with Frank, like Frank was singing to him. You know, that's the magic he had. He could bring it all down to like you were all in the bar with him. You know, he was magic. He was magic.
Hey, Tom, you're wrong about one thing. He did go to acting school, the streets.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
No
Yeah. You know, people always ask me, what was it like? You know, I would stay at his home. Frank never went to bed till the sun came up. When the sun came up, he was nocturnal. So when the sun came up, he went to bed. He would get me sometimes. He'd come to my bungalow. He had this big compound down in the desert, down in Rancho Mirage, with bungalows all along the outer perimeter. And they were called New York, Strangers in the Night, Tender Trap, named after a song. He'd come and get me at 3:30 in the morning or 4. He'd say, Tommy, let's take a ride. We'd from the desert till the sun came up. But people would always say, well, what did you talk about? I said, you know, when we got in that car, I was a kid from the south side of Chicago, and he was a kid from Hoboken. And that's how we talked. He once said to the New York Times, the guy said, why do you keep Tom Dreesen with you all these years? And Frank said, you mean besides the fact that he's funny? And the guy said, yeah, besides the fact that he's funny. Frank said, well, if I'm a saloon singer, and I am, he said, then Tommy's a saloon comedian. By that, I mean, we're just a couple of neighborhood guys. And I always treasured that quote because that's how I felt when I was with, we're a couple guys from the neighborhood, you know.
Wow.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it. Robbie, we'll see you guys next week. Thank you.
Thank you. We apologize. We're going to try to get Tommy John back on the show real soon. God bless to all our viewers out there. Reach out and rate Steve and musical director Robbie Robinson.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, guys.
I'm ready to play.